Today on Nerd and Normal, AI use in professional photography with a professional photographer.
Welcome to Nerd and Normal with Matthew and Gareth, opening your mind to the world of technology. So let's get started.
G'day Matthew, how are you today?
Not too bad, Gareth. Almost the time of the year where things start cooling down, and not with technology though. It keeps on getting warmer and busier all the time.
Absolutely. Now, last Sunday, as you know, we did a segment on AI, and you actually did a test during the week with sound. Do you want to explain very quickly what that test was, and let's hear the result, because I've got something to say about it.
So one thing I tried to do is see, or I could try to push the limit of the AI, see what I can try and get it to do and break. In this case, I wanted to actually have to write a script for itself and read it out to me, where every second word was the word mate.
Algorithms, mate are mate, step by step, mate procedures, mate designed, mate to mate, solve mate problems.
Because it's my job, and it affects my job, and I don't want to be replaced in front of a microphone by AI, the thing about that particular thing you did is the absence of warmth, the absence of humanity in the voice talking about mate. And I believe, rightly or wrongly, I believe that whether it's with photography or with sound or whatever, the one thing AI cannot do is access creativity. Creativity is a purely human ingredient, and all that AI can do is access its database. So I feel I'm not really at risk yet for them to be able to replicate a voice that is totally human in sound and totally creative in output. So that's the first thing I want to say. Now, with that in mind, we're very lucky to be joined today by a very special person. She's the creator of an organization called Wisteria Weddings. Now, she's a photographer, and it's a duo, the relationship. There are two of them. The pair use photographs and video to present stories with a remarkable flair for creativity. Both of these two photographers' backgrounds cover award-winning landscape photography, videography, together with portraiture, business and industry work, and their skill set now covers engagements, weddings, elopements, or whatever, at any venue, anywhere in Australia. They really have a remarkable skill set to both create and freeze in time the story of a couple's most special day, making it unique to them. And the question is, can AI or EI, but can AI do that? I don't think so. It's Vanessa Claire and Ka Kit Jung. Now, Vanessa joins us. She's the creator. Vanessa, welcome.
Thank you, Gareth. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Oh, look, I'm exceedingly well. Bit of a sore voice, but we won't worry about that. Now, look, you are, Matthew, I know Vanessa very well. I know her work. I've seen her work, and she's even done some work for me. I've never come across a photographer with such genius behind a camera. She's able to look at a scene, and intuitively she can see in that scene things that the camera wouldn't see by itself, and she's able to capture it with the camera. Now, the question becomes, let me go straight to the point, Vanessa. What is your problem with AI and wedding photography, or any sort of photography?
So there is inherently no problem with AI in terms of photography. We are seeing it. Look, I've been doing photography for about 10 years now. And over those 10 years, photography is continually evolving. So we've seen it, even before I started professionally photographing, it started off as film, black and white photography, then came color, then came digital. And then we got Photoshop, and we were able to modify images that way. And so this is just simply the evolution of photography. So I think it's going to make some big changes. We haven't seen technology evolve so fast as it is now with all the previous things, the film to digital to etc. Like those were very slow evolutions. So we're seeing a very rapid growth. In terms of photography, there are certain areas of photography that are going to be replaced or completely made obsolete by AI, but there are still certain areas that will be okay.
What are the areas that will be made obsolete?
So what I've been noticing a lot during the time I've been doing photography is any form of photography that is based solely on a perfect final image or a highly replicatable image. So we're talking headshots, corporate headshots, where a photographer goes into a company and will take 150 photos of people, and they're all supposed to look the same.
Yep.
And AI does that very well. So what we're seeing with the headshot world is people will upload selfies of themselves. They'll take a couple of selfies, when they go into the office, and they'll upload them to an app or a website, and that app or website will create them a headshot. And if they don't like that, then they can try to replicate it again. And the benefit to this is a lot of companies, they're not wanting an artistic image. They're just wanting a photo of that person. And as long as the photo is in a particular light and it's uniform across all employees, that's okay. It's good enough. It's going to be a little thumbnail at the bottom of the email. That's going to do the job.
Okay.
Is it better for sort of the website to create those, or use the tools inside Photoshop to do those sort of things, though?
So, inside Photoshop, there are definitely some AI, some great AI features that I myself have been using. It can't create a headshot from scratch. So you still need to have a photographer take one, and the AI features are drastically enhancing what you can do. But in terms of creating a headshot from scratch, these are separate websites that are being used, and they're a fraction of the cost of what a photographer would do. Because you're paying for their time, you're paying for their photo, like all the post-processing to make that photo look perfect. And I hate to say, but in the next 5-10 years, I think headshot, particularly these large-scale headshot photographers, their jobs are going to be taken by AI.
If I could jump straight to a wedding situation, an engagement situation, a funeral or whatever, it seems to me, and I'm not a photographer, as you know and told me so many times, but it seems to me that what AI does with a photographic event is it lacks authenticity, it lacks emotion, it lacks creativity, and the memories are frozen. They're not real. They don't have the depth.
Correct.
And for example, at a wedding, if you're the photographer and you see a little child looking around at the bride and big smile on his or her face, AI can't manufacture that. It has to have a photographer who has a gift. Am I right or am I wrong?
No, that's absolutely correct. So any form of photography I'm envisioning to withstand AI is going to be any form that involves experience or capturing a memory, involves a physical person being there to capture something. So those forms of photography they're going to be okay because it's about an experience. And, coming back to the headshot photography, I think what's going to really make or break headshot photographers, people who have been doing that as their bread and butter for the last 10, 15, 20 years, are the ones that can try to make that photo into an experience. So I'm thinking things like personal branding photography. So rather than just doing a headshot, try to add some services that kind of give that experience or give that authenticity, maybe having, a little bit of what that person's about. So yeah, so the photographers that are aware of AI, aware of what can do, and also aware of what it can't do. So, creating these experiences, creating something more authentic about that person. I think those photographers are going to do well.
What about, and I know that your photographic partner, Kit, is exceptional with landscape photography. Is it going to impact landscape photography? Because as I see it, if I go out and I'm going to photograph Mount Kosciuszko or whatever, if the weather changes, AI can't compensate with that, any change that occurs in the environment. So how safe is landscape photography?
So again, with landscape photography, even over the past 10, 20 years since Photoshop's been around, there's always been, a bit of apprehension about whether a photo that you see, so you might see a landscape photo on the internet, right? And even with Photoshop, a lot of people were worried, well, was that photo actually what was taken, or did they Photoshop the sky in? Did they Photoshop the weather in? Did they, were those flowers really yellow or were they actually purple? Because you could always do these sorts of changes. And so what we're seeing with AI now is that it can take, rather than modifying an image using Photoshop, it can actually create an entire landscape. And so when people are posting their landscape photos on the internet, people are, I mean, you can see people on social media all the time now. They don't believe anything anymore. People are very apprehensive on social media. And so this is a struggle for genuine landscape photographers like Kit, because everything that he takes out of his camera is what it is. He's a very honest, genuine photographer. But when he posts something remarkable that's happened out in nature and he posts that, people are like, oh, did that really happen? Or is that AI? So people aren't believing these incredible images anymore. So what used to be a photo that would wow people and be like, oh, wow, I can't believe that sky looked like that. And there was lightning and then there was a rainbow over there. Whenever he's posting these photos now, he's not getting the same reaction as he once did, because people are skeptical about landscape. And so again, how can you combat that? How, as a landscape photographer, how can you make people trust that your images are real? And again, it comes back to not just selling your images, but selling who you are as a person. And this is across any photography business. Is not just, and as you see, Gareth, with my wedding photography, I'm not just putting my photos out there, but I'm talking, I'm giving people some advice. I'm telling people who I am. I'm doing some behind the scenes, because people are wanting those genuine, trustworthy and authentic moments. And Kit, as a landscape photographer, he's actually doing the same. He's getting a lot of behind the scenes content so people can actually trust him and have that
makes
integrity.
sense. Matthew, I've got to say, Vanessa just mentioned her wedding photography. One of the things I've noticed about the photographs, the weddings that she's covered, is that she has almost an innate ability to tell a story with her camera. She goes through, it's almost like chapters in a book. And I feel, and I'm just amazed every time I see them, but I feel that if AI took over, that the wedding couple would think, oh, it's the same as everybody else's. It's not unique. It's not us anymore. It's manufactured. So, Matt, I hope, just like my job, I hope doesn't disappear. I hope what Vanessa does, and every photographer, is still there, because we need that creativity. We need the Leonardo da Vinci's. We need the Rembrandts. We need the Goyas in photography, because they're artists.
The problem always comes down to, though, how people can really trust if the photographers are doing those photos with their cameras, or it's photoshopped as it was years ago, or these days AI. So what's a way that photographers can actually prove their work is not photoshopped or AI worked on, in a way that would help people realise this is actually really what the person's taking with their camera?
That's a really good question, Matthew. And I think this is something that's becoming more of a problem in photography competitions more than anything. So when it comes to general social media, you can never, people aren't going to know. And it comes down to knowing that person and having followed, for example, Kit, my partner, he's a very honest person, and he's always been had a lot of integrity. And people who have followed him for 20 years on Instagram, they know him and they know what he's like. But in saying that, a lot of people have thought that some of his images were fake. There was a photo that he won in a competition many, many years ago. I can give it to you so you can post it on the YouTube video. And it's of a onyx or a antelope standing on a sand dune. And it's an amazing photo. And he went to post that on social media, and everyone thought it was fake or photoshopped. So it doesn't matter how much integrity you have. People out there will think that your stuff is fake. And there's no way to know for sure.
The beauty is, though, you know that you took it, and it's your. I mean, if Rembrandt paints something, he knows he did it, so you know you did it.
But it's bad for the content creators thinking that here I am, I've put my heart and soul into this beautiful picture or video. In the case of video, and you're told, nah, you're AI generated, you're Photoshop, you're not actually doing that work, and the effort is there. I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, and this comes back to what I said before about having a lot of that behind the scenes footage. So, a lot of photographers these days, you're not just taking photos these days, but you've got, your AI glasses on. So you're getting like that behind the scenes, behind the camera, or you've got, you're getting a bunch of camera phone reels and you're stitching that along with the photo as well, so people can see, that photo was real. But again, even even amateur content these days is becoming faked by AI. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know how much time you spend on Instagram and TikTok, but you see a lot of sort of behind the scenes, but it's actually just AI. So it's becoming really good at not just replicating those perfect photos, but also even the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen videos, sorry, of, an iPhone video of someone rescuing a cat off the side of the road, and it looks like it's all grainy and it looks like a very amateur iPhone video, but then you get to the comments and everyone's like, oh, that's just AI. And it's like, well, was it AI or is it not AI? So again, it's just, I can't answer that question. And I think only time will tell how, we're going to be able to trust what we see on the internet.
I've got to ask, what sort of feedback do you get from the couples that you actually videoed and photographed?
Yeah, like the feedback's all really good. But again, that's a very different sort of, as I said, I'm taking photos of real moments. And something that I've noticed with wedding photography and even family in portraiture photography is about 10 years ago, a good photographer was someone who took a very polished image. So think of those glamour magazines where the models are, their skin is perfect and, the lighting's perfect and all the, professional angles and everything like that. So I'm actually seeing less of that now in wedding photography and all areas of photography. And what is starting to come back is almost like a film photography look from the 90s. So it's almost like people have pushed away from this AI, like, because, in the 2000s, this type of perfect polished image was very hard to achieve. You had to have really good, Photoshop skills and really good lighting skills, and all of these technical precision was what made a good photographer. But now that AI can do that, and AI can do it better than a human can, people are wanting what is harder to achieve, which is a genuine image. And so I've noticed with the photography styles that are trending at the moment,
Yeah.
is they're actually following a film photography look. So I've had to add grain into my images because AI is really good at removing grain, which is, I don't know if you know what that is, but like noise, like the
Yep.
noise
Yep.
in photos. And for a long time, it was a photographer, that was our goal, was to remove as much noise as possible and to have have the shadows exposed and the lighting and the dynamic range. But now it's because AI has become so good at that, people have pushed away and they want that imperfect image again. And so I've actually had to de-skill myself in a way to combat what people want. And they want those real photos because I think people are worried that if they take those perfect shots and they post them to the internet, their friends might accuse them of being AI.
One thing that needs to all be brought back in is the old Polaroid cameras. Oh, so I've got one here somewhere, and I've taken some photos with them, and they look absolutely like garbage, but they can't be AI faked.
Well, actually, Polaroid cameras have come back in as well. And film cameras, I've just literally just had to pull out a film camera out of storage because all the couples want film and Polaroids at the moment. So I think people are kind of wanting the past. I think people are a bit worried about where we are at the moment, and they're wanting to hang on to the past. And so I've noticed that film, Polaroid, even Super 8, which is like a film, old school film style. You know what that is?
I do.
People are wanting that as well. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, the same is incorporated in sound because Sony Music has created a factory just to reproduce vinyl, not CDs, but vinyl. And cassettes have suddenly made a remarkable comeback. People want to buy cassettes.
Yeah,
Gosh,
people are trying to hold on to the past. And I think that's what, part of that is what AI has been doing. And I'm seeing that a lot in photography.
We can always phone home.
you're frozen.
Oh, gee.
Look, Vanessa, I'm really applaud. Before I do that, though, Matthew, I've got to tell you, because I'm a Neanderthal man, nearly 110 years old and my only contact with social media was YouTube, Facebook sometimes, and Instagram occasionally, and TikTok, nah. But this lady, and if you're watching her, she can teach you how to use TikTok because she insisted that I start posting media advice on TikTok. and her tips on how to improve it. Even though I'm a broadcaster and I know how to speak, I had no idea how successful I could be without listening to what Vanessa told me. So if you want advice on TikTok, get in touch with Vanessa. But
I've grown up in the era, so it's easier for me.
you're a young person. But if you want a photographer, I can absolutely assure you, and companies like RM Williams, Legacy Sydney, RSL Australia, companies like that.
If they can make Gareth look good.
Yeah, anyone who can make me look good is the best in the world, but I don't look good. I'm here. Be quiet, nerd. This lady is sought after by so many. And if you go on to Wisteria Wedding, and the link is down below, and just look at some of the weddings that she's done, they are stories of immaculate, unbelievable creativity. Get in touch with her. She'll make even you look good.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, AI, a lot of people are scared of it. It's starting to, affect a lot of people's jobs, photographers included. But, if you embrace it and you use it in your workflow, it can actually be a really good tool. And so I use AI quite a lot, actually. And how AI can be really useful for photographers is particularly in the post-processing part of it. So AI, there's a lot of programs now that, when I come back from an event, so I do event photography as well, and I've got, 4,000 images on my camera. And normally I would have had to go through every single one of those images and take out the ones with people blinking, take out, culling them, basically, culling them down to maybe 2,000 images that are, acceptable to give to the client. And so what AI, and that's a tedious job. It's grunt work for a photographer. So now what you can do is you can actually feed that photo set into an AI platform, and it can use intelligence to cull out those images for you. And it does a very good job at that. So it has image detection. It can work out blinking. It can work out, if I've dropped the camera on the floor and taken an accidental shot, it can figure out if a shot's blurry, and it'll cull all that out. And so that saved hundreds and hundreds of hours of time. What it's also really good at is editing. So for batch editing, so again, back in the day when I batch edited, I would have either a algorithm set up with like presets or, maybe, predefined exposure levels. And then it would try to batch image all of those photos to a set number of parameters. But what the problem with that was, if one image was too dark and one image was too light, it wasn't correcting for that. It was just editing everything the same. Whereas what AI can do is it can actually work out what an image needs fixing. So it can work out if the image is too bright or the image is too dark, or if you want to, add some saturation or reduce noise. And it does that really good for a lot of images. And it has that uniform look as well, which it does a better job than I can do. AI is actually doing really well at filling in those, parts of my workflow. And one more thing is that AI is doing really well at the moment is object removal. So say I've got a photo, and it could be a wedding as well, and I've got a person in the background, and they're checking their phone and they ruin the photo. And before AI, I would have actually had to manually clone that person out, and that would have taken, depending on the complexity of the image, that could have taken up to 30 minutes to clone someone out. Or you could pay someone to do that, which would cost a significant amount of money. And so what Photoshop has now is it has a generative fill tool. And so all I have to do now is circle the object and just press remove, and AI will figure out what to fill in that background. And again, it does a better job than me. And that's something that I would have done anyway. It just does it quicker.
Okay. So you've used two words in what you were just saying. You've used the word tool and you've used the word creativity.
Yeah.
I think AI, from what you're saying and what Matthew and I talked about last week, I think AI will always be, as long as I'm alive, a tool. It'll never have the capacity to be creative. So in photography, they'll always need a you.
Yes.
Because you have the creative bent. You can create. AI can't.
And know how to use those tools to actually make that creativity a reality.
Yep.
Exactly. And these are things that I would have done anyway. It just is stuff that is so much faster now. It just makes the workflow more efficient. And I believe that photographers, particularly commercial photographers that aren't implementing AI into their workflow, they're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to charge, compete in terms of cost, because I can do something at a much more cost-effective rate because I'm paying AI 5 cents per image to edit rather than $5 in an image if I was to get a human to do it. So I'm able to charge a much more competitive rate for that. That works out better for my clients. And so when your clients are looking at two quotes and one is one price and one is the other price, they don't care that this person's using a human to edit their photos and that I'm using AI. They're only interested in the final product and the cost for that product. And so if you can do it one way and it's exactly the same, just more cost effective because you've used AI, it's going to be quite a difficult field for businesses that aren't implementing it into their workflow to keep up with that, with the photographers that are using it.
Well, a remarkable photographer you are.
Thank you.
And a very creative person you are. Matthew, I think AI, it's always going to be a tool, and that's a positive. That's a positive, as Vanessa has just said. But the thing that'll be missing, it won't have the spirit of a Rembrandt or a Goya.
Yeah.
We need Vanessas and Kits to do that.
Thank you.
I hope your next wedding meeting means after this that you're going to get a very good job in Perth, and you're going to be backwards and forwards between Victoria and Perth for the rest of the week or the rest of the year.
Yeah, no, I love Perth. It's got some of, as I mentioned, I'm sort of a hybrid landscape wedding photographer. So I've got that landscape background, wedding, and Western Australia's got some amazing landscapes. And so what Kit and I have started to do is we've kind of done a bit of a destination elopement package for wedding, because a lot of couples are wanting that at the moment. They're not really wanting those big weddings. They're wanting sort of to go away and get some awesome photos by a beach or in a really unique location. And Kit and I, because we know all the locations, so this is sort of a new package that we're starting to offer, which is really cool. A lot of people in Western Australia, a lot of people in Tasmania, because they want that outdoorsy kind of wedding. So
a silly final question.
Yeah.
A double science major that you are, why did you go from that into photography? Briefly.
A lot of people don't realize that photography is actually incredibly technical and that engineering is incredibly creative. A lot of people think photography, creative, engineering, technical, but actually if you approach photography the right way, you can actually blend the same elements that engineering had. And so, yeah, and I always had sort of an natural artistic ability, if I'm allowed to say that myself. And yeah, I mean, it was always a risk changing careers, but it's something that has, I enjoy. I don't want to be sitting in an office,
Oh, no. Well, there'll be
writing
many
emails all day. So
there'll be many married couples who are thankful that you did drop engineering and take up photography. Vanessa, thank you so much for your time. Good luck with your
Thank you, Gareth.
wedding. And the link to what Vanessa is capable of doing is in the notes below, Wisteria Weddings. I can guarantee you will not find anyone better. Thank you for coming along.
Thank you, Vanessa. Have a good day. Enjoy your meeting over there.
Thank you, Matthew.
Again, the bad side and the good side. And admitting it's a tool. That's the thing. It's always a tool. Never to replace people. It's there to be used by the right people for the right purposes.
Yeah.